Is it really possible to put the enemy to rout with stench alone? Medieval Chinese documents describe how such stink bombs were manufactured. Weapons expert Mike Loades wants to try out the recipe.
The first evidence we've got for the stink pot comes from China in 1044. It's a recorded use. And we have a number of recipes, all sorts of acids and plants. Here's one that was commonly used, aconite. And it's the roots that are deadly poisonous. If you ingest those roots, then it causes stomach hemorrhaging. Your stomach bleeds, your intestines bleed. It causes terrible, terrible suffering. And another common ingredient was the Heliocopris beetle. These nasty little fellows. It feeds on waste and it absorbs poison. And so when cut apart, there are all sorts of poisonous properties with that. Tung oil, deadly poisonous from the tung tree in Southeast Asia and China. Lime, basic chalk, but when that's heated to very high temperatures, that itself becomes a deadly substance. If it mixes with the moist parts of the body, like the tears of the eyes or mucus in the nose, or you get it mixed with the saliva.
Hi everyone, thanks for being here today. We're about to conduct a historical experiment. Blue is Prussia, these are the Austrians. It's the battle between a breech-loading system and a muzzle-loader system. Everyone has the same weapons. The Austrians are only allowed to reload once and have to wait 20 to 30 seconds. This is about the time it took a historical muzzle-loader to reload. The Prussians are allowed to reload once, fire, reload once, fire.
Team Orange has to fire together and load while standing, just as the musketeers had to do until the middle of the 19th century. Team Blue may now take cover.
Attention everyone, get ready, 3, 2, 1.
Being able to fire faster and to take cover to reload. The benefits of the needle gun should be quite obvious during our test.
How real. Just imagine how muzzleloaders used to shoot back in the days. They all fired their guns at the same time. It maybe took a well-trained shooter 20 seconds to fire one shot. They're an easy target.
Hit! One man down.
Team Blue is still intact, 0 hits. They're bending down and are much harder to hit. Oh, this doesn't look good at all for them.
Oh, come on, hit him.
Team Blue wins. Team Orange doesn't stand the slightest chance against the attack from cover.
Team Blue was significantly faster. They could take cover and were therefore a much smaller target. Team Orange had to stand. Firing one shot took them much longer, which is historically accurate, and this is why Blue won.
Weapons expert Stephen Bull wants to find out if it is possible to cross a minefield. So he put the assistants into 2 groups. One group has planted the mines. Without knowing the pattern, the other group will now have to get to the other side unharmed.
If anybody has a weak heart, they should tell me now. Everybody feels fit and well?
Yes. Yes.
The second group doesn't know yet that the track is riddled with mines.
Are we okay? Let's go! Quickly, quickly! Oh! Stop, stop, stop! You're in a minefield, stop! That certainly gave a few people surprises.
Only 2 meters into the field, 2 mines go off. In reality, The explosive power would have at the very least caused severe harm to everyone.
One of our most terrifying and mysterious experiments is Greek fire. Mysterious because the original recipe has been lost, and what we've had to do is bring together some of the most likely ingredients.
In Byzantium, the blend of the incendiary weapon was a state secret. Historical accounts mention amounts of sulfur, caustic lime, saltpeter, and crude oil, which at the time was referred to by its Greek name, naphtha, and extracted directly from the ground at sites in the Middle East. Oil is also the basis of Greek fire. For our experiment, Stephen Bull wants to check the proportion of the ingredients.
So let's light up this sample and see how it works. It's burning quite nicely.
But is this mixture really the Byzantines' wonder weapon? What happens when it comes into contact with water, like it did off the coast of Constantinople?
Obviously, that would be a very foolish thing to do. It seems to make the fire worse. It splutters, fades, and then gets worse again. So now we're doing it for real. We've got not just a small sample of Greek fire, we've got a whole siphon full. And as you can see, we're needing to take quite a few precautions. We've got fire suits and we've got a fire truck right on hand. And I'm really not quite sure how this is going to work out. And to say the least, I am a little nervous.
How dangerous is a replica Byzantine flamethrower?
Everybody ready?
We're going to go now. We can see that the ignition system is blazing away merrily at the front there, and we're ready to shoot.
2 people are necessary to operate the pump. On one side, air is sucked in. On the other, fire comes out. The fiery jet only ends when the tank is empty. Our Greek fire works. The historic mass of fire doesn't go out, even on the water. This is also how Mike Lodes and Jens Christiansen know what kind of incendiary composition is needed for their iron basket. Pitch, sulfur, deadwood, and hemp ensure that the arrow keeps burning.
And then, for good measure, we could dip that in tar.
The last step. Now the weapon is ready for action. Will it be possible to set fire to the target thanks to the incendiary composition in the iron head? Mike Lodes wants to put that to the test.
So this is the arrow that I made with Jens. So it's got the sulfur at its core. Around that is the dead wood, and then on the outside is the toe dipped in tar. So we've got the tar going, the pitch is going on the outside. Let's see how it will perform. Hopefully that's getting hot enough to get the deadwood lit inside. Well, look at that. It's actually taking. That house is going to burn. And if this was a night raid, the soft tap of that arrow into that roof, no one would have heard it, no one would have seen it coming until the house is fully ablaze. It's a most vicious form of warfare, a terrible terror attack to drive the citizens from the city, to make them turn against their overlords and give up and open the gates.
In our experiment, we are using balloons to represent the enemy's formation. The trick of the Korean washer is its ignition mechanism. One man can fire 100 arrows at the same time.
The ignition technique is quite simple. This main fuse cord ignites the first row. If that one starts to burn, the second fuse ignites the second row. That means the ones up here will already be going off parallel to this row, so the last one will be that one down there.
But will the principle work in our experiment? At the end of the 16th century, Koreans are opposing a Japanese invasion. The Japanese send their samurai battalions, fighting in fixed formations. The ideal target for the Hwasha rocket missiles, in theory. In our test setting, the success is modest.
Well, that's a result. I didn't quite hit the target, but at the end of the day, I'd say it was a dangerous weapon.
Man-sized balloons will once again take the place of our enemy. The plan is to make the rocket hit them right in the middle and explode.
A real-world experiment. Over there are the attackers, our balloons. Here's the rocket ready to be fired.
Will the single rocket be more effective than the projectile downpour of the Hwasha?
All safe? I'm counting down. 3, 2, 1, and fire.
And it's working. The rocket explodes exactly where it's supposed to. How accurate can a bomb be dropped manually? A red cross on an airfield is our target.
So just how easy is it to hit a target on the ground from a moving aircraft by throwing a bomb over the side of the plane? We're about to find out.
The rules are simple. Above the target, the aerial bomb is dropped by eye. An experienced airplane crew provides support for Stephen Bull. Once the bomb models are loaded, they will rise to an altitude of 400 meters.
So we're inside the bombing aircraft now. This is an Antonov A2 biplane. So its characteristics are quite similar to some of the First World War aircraft that would have been used to drop bombs. This plane can fly very slowly. In fact, if the wind speed is strong, it can appear to be stationary. The downside is that we have to keep the door open, so it's going to be quite exciting.
The machine gains altitude and accelerates to 150 kilometers an hour. Conditions similar to those during an airstrike in World War I.
They've got the bomb ready in position, and the guys are in the doorway.
A little bit more to the right before maintaining their position and altitude.
Bomb's in the doorway. They're looking for the cross. I'm looking for the cross. Bomb's away! I'm trying to see where it's landed. I'm really not sure how close to the target we were.
The bomb was successfully dropped by eye. But has it hit its intended target? How close did we get to the actual cross?
So according to an eyewitness, the bomb is round about here somewhere. There's the remains of plaster and the central section of the bomb and the fins, and it's actually embedded in the ground. I would have thought 20, 30 centimetres. Yeah, and there is the nose of the bomb, and the fins really are no longer fins, so it's completely mangled. If it had been full of explosives, you wouldn't even have this much left. Quite a mess.
Our bomb dummy has hit the ground about 90 meters off target.
I think we've done reasonably well, but even so, if this was a small group of men we'd been aiming at, we'd have missed it.
The results obtained by World War I pilots were likely pure luck. Hitting a target by eye alone is already a huge challenge, even in the best of weather conditions. Together with stuntman Joachim, weapons expert Mike Loades is preparing an experiment. They set up a typical breastplate made from steel, an integral part of late medieval armor.
The main job of this is to deflect.
Joachim has to become a knight for the experiment. He will attack his opponent sitting on his horse in full armor, just like in the Middle Ages. The process takes almost 30 minutes. He has to put on roughly 15 parts, one by one. Mail, the gambeson made of linen and plate armor on top of it. The intention of the numerous layers is to protect the knight from all dangers that may arise in the thick of a fight. But how immobile will the heavy armor make him?
Of course, you can tell a difference because you are wearing approximately between 20 to 25 kilos more. But of course, it's made so that it supports the way your body is supposed to be moving. So if I fall to the ground, there's this big misconception that you can't get up again. But of course you can, because in battle, you could get torn off your horse and then you would be lying on the ground. And of course, you need to get up again so you can protect yourself.
Can Joachim's longsword seriously damage the dummy in armor at all? The armor withstands the attack. Mike Loades and stuntman Joachim want to test the effect of a warhammer blow to solid medieval plate armor.
That was chilling to see that force go through, and it just goes to show that however ingenious man is, however much he invents new armor and new protection, another man can invent what will defeat it, and it was the warhammer that defeated armor.
The warhammer offers an additional advantage. The attacker can use the blunt weapon to hit his opponent from above. Brutal violence that we want to simulate in our test. Stuntman Joachim hits the dummy with full force. The experiment gives an idea of how brutal medieval battles must have been. Karin Rutgers is a neurobiologist. She will confront some volunteers with a bayonet attack. For security reasons, we resort to virtual reality.
We know today that watching films with these virtual reality glasses, we experience similar emotions to those we have in real life. This is why we even use them to treat anxiety disorders. Our subconscious simply cannot differentiate between reality and fantasy. Our cognitive conscious self can make this differentiation, but our subconscious feels the same fear, so it's all very realistic.
Two scenes will take place in the virtual reality setting. In a World War I trench, participants will face a soldier aiming at them with a rifle. In the second scenario, the soldier approaches them, a bayonet on his rifle. Will the participants' reaction be different? The first round starts under the observing eye of Karin Rutgers. We measure the heart rate and skin resistance of each participant to be able to analyze their reactions in detail. These parameters will undeniably reveal their fear. Putting on the virtual reality glasses, the first participant is plunged into World War I. She was not briefed beforehand and has difficulties orienting herself in the unusual setting. Then the first part begins.
Okay, we could see how she moved back.
We show the scene to a total of 10 participants. They are given no warning beforehand. The subjects all go into the experiment without being brought up to speed. Their reactions are similar. They all experience a moment of fear. Virtual reality works.
In the first round, they all froze and waited for what was to come next. They were less relaxed, definitely tense, but were not terrified yet.
The second round. Now the virtual soldier is attacking with his bayonet. Will the participants react differently in the simulated close combat situation?
I felt afraid for a brief moment. He looked me directly in the eye, and that felt uncomfortable.
But that was frightening because he didn't stop but ran directly towards me. What you actually want to do is to get out of his way somehow and run away.
There we could clearly see the move back.
The trench warfare situation is nightmarish. A screaming soldier with a bayonet on his firearm clearly increases the tension.
You can see an enormous spike here. You can see how she oriented herself. She moved around a lot in the room as well. Then she calmed down, and then all of a sudden the soldier appeared, and she became very nervous. It was very, very frightening and scary, and I felt kind of defenseless.
Wanting to escape the situation is the natural response observed in our experiment. Again, this fear can be clearly seen by way of the measured curve.
You definitely feel a lot more scared, and when he started to scream, I really just wanted to get away.
The participants rated their emotional state on a scale before the experiment and after each virtual reality scenario. Using this subjective data and the measurements of heart rate and skin resistance, Karin Rutgers obtains an unequivocal analysis result.
The data clearly shows that the tension rose by 140% in the bayonet situation, whereas it only increased by 75% in the rifle scenario. So we could show that the bayonet is twice as frightening as the firearm alone.